Have you ever begged someone in your head, even if you didn't beg with your words? You act like you're fine, but deep inside you're hoping they text back, hoping they care again, hoping they notice you the way they used to. You keep thinking about them, checking their activity, remembering the old version of them, and it feels like your chest gets heavy every time they stay silent. But here is the painful truth. When you beg for attention, you are telling your soul that your peace is not important. Buddhism teaches that attachment is the root of suffering, and the only way to stay calm when people change is to detach before you destroy yourself. So if you're ready to stop chasing, stop needing validation, and start living with real peace and self-respect, then listen carefully, because these lessons are going to change the way you handle people forever. 1. Stop chasing people who are already walking away. The biggest mistake you can make when people change is chasing them like you can bring the old version of them back. When someone starts acting cold, replying late, losing interest, or treating you like you don't matter, your heart doesn't want to accept it. So you start doing more. You start sending longer messages. You start explaining yourself again and again. You start trying to prove that you are good, loyal, and worthy. And without even realizing it, you begin to chase the same person who is already showing you they don't want to stay. And this is where most people lose their self-respect. Because chasing doesn't bring love back, it only makes you feel smaller. You stay available even when they are inconsistent. You forgive too fast even when they don't deserve it. You reply quickly even when they reply like they don't care. You keep giving them chances because you're hoping they will go back to the way they used to be. But the truth is, you cannot force someone to be the person they used to be. You cannot beg someone to value you again. Buddhism teaches that attachment is the root of suffering. The more you hold on to someone who is pulling away, the more pain you create for yourself. Because you are not only losing them, you are also losing your peace, your confidence, and your emotional stability. You start overthinking every small thing. You start blaming yourself. You start checking your phone again and again. You start living in anxiety because your happiness is now tied to whether they respond or not. And what makes it even worse is this. When you chase someone who is already walking away, you are silently teaching them that they can treat you however they want, and you will still stay. You are telling them, even if you ignore me, I will still be here waiting. And that makes them feel powerful while you feel desperate. Not because you are weak, but because you are giving your power away to someone who is not respecting you anymore. So the strongest move is not begging. The strongest move is to stop chasing. If someone is walking away, don't run behind them with your dignity in your hands. Don't lower yourself to get basic attention. Don't destroy your self-worth just to keep someone who is already choosing distance. Let them go and protect your peace, because your peace is more valuable than any person who keeps changing on you. Detachment is not you becoming cold. Detachment is you choosing yourself. It means you finally understand that love should not cost you your pride, your sleep, your confidence, and your mental health. Real love doesn't need chasing. Real respect doesn't need begging. And the moment you stop chasing what is leaving, you start becoming strong again. 2. Don't beg for attention. That's not love. That's addiction. Many people think they are begging because they love too much, but the truth is deeper than that. Most of the time, you are not begging for love. You are begging for attention, and attention is not the same thing as love. Love is consistent. Love is peaceful. Love feels safe. But begging feels stressful. Begging feels heavy. Begging feels like you are always trying to earn something that should already be given naturally. When someone starts changing on you, your mind goes into panic mode. You start feeling uncomfortable with their silence. You start feeling anxious when they don't reply. You start overthinking every small detail like, did I say something wrong? Are they bored of me? Did they find someone better? And then you try to fix that pain by chasing their attention. You send another message. You check your phone again. You post something hoping they notice. You start doing things just to get a reaction from them. And slowly, without realizing it, you become emotionally dependent. This is why Buddhism teaches that craving is the root of suffering. Because begging is not a sign of love, it is a sign of craving. It is your mind begging for reassurance. It is your heart begging to feel important again. It is your ego begging to feel chosen again. And the more you feed this craving, the more addicted you become. You start needing their attention just to feel okay. If they reply, you feel calm for a moment. If they don't reply, you feel miserable again. That means your emotions are no longer in your control, they are in their hands. And this is the dangerous part. When you beg for attention, you destroy your self-worth little by little. Because now you are telling yourself, I need this person to notice me, or I'm not valuable. You are training your mind to believe that being ignored means you are not enough, but that is a lie. People ignoring you does not reduce your worth. People changing does not make you less. It only shows their character, not your value. Begging also kills respect. Because when someone sees that you will stay no matter how poorly they treat you, they stop taking you seriously. They start thinking, I can ignore them and they will still come back. And you may not want to hear this, but sometimes the more you beg, the more you push them away, because desperation never looks attractive and it never creates real love. So Buddhism teaches a powerful lesson here. The moment you feel the urge to beg, pause and observe your mind. Ask yourself, am I doing this because I truly want to express love, or am I doing this because I'm scared of being abandoned? Because fear makes people chase. Fear makes people beg. Fear makes people lose dignity. But awareness makes you powerful. Real love should not feel like you are fighting for basic attention. Real love should not feel like you are constantly trying to prove yourself. And if someone is making you beg, it means they are not giving you the respect you deserve. So instead of begging, detach. Instead of chasing, breathe. Instead of needing them, return to yourself. Because when you stop begging for attention, you stop humiliating your own heart, you stop feeding the addiction, and you finally become free. 3. Accept the truth. People change, and it's not your job to fix it. One of the hardest realities in life is this: people change. Their energy changes, their priorities change, their feelings change, and sometimes even their character starts showing in a way you never expected. And when someone changes on you, it can feel like a shock to your soul. Not because you are weak, but because your mind keeps remembering the way they used to be. You remember how they cared, how they spoke to you, how consistent they were, how close you felt. And then you compare that version of them to who they are today, and it makes you confused, hurt, and emotionally tired. This is why people suffer deeply when others change. Because the pain is not only about losing attention, it is about losing certainty. It is about losing the comfort of knowing where you stand. You start thinking, what happened? Why are they acting like this? Why do they treat me like I'm nothing now? What did I do? And slowly, you begin to blame yourself for something that might not even be your fault. But Buddhism teaches something that can save you from this mental torture. Everything in life is impermanent. Nothing stays the same forever. Not situations, not emotions, not people, not relationships, not even the version of yourself that you were last year. Life is always moving. Energies shift. People grow, people change, and people reveal their truth over time. And the more you fight this reality, the more you suffer. Because most pain comes from resisting what is already happening. You keep hoping they will go back to the old version. You keep waiting for the same love again. You keep holding on to old memories like they are proof that the person still cares. But the truth is, someone can have been good to you before and still become wrong for you now. Someone can have loved you once and still stop valuing you later. And this doesn't always mean you did something wrong. Sometimes it just means their heart changed direction. Now listen carefully, because this part is very important. When people change, you will feel a strong urge to fix it. You will want to talk more, explain more, prove more, and fight harder. You will want to ask for closure, ask for answers, ask for reassurance, ask for the truth. You will start thinking, if I say the right words, they will understand. If I show them how much I care, they will come back. If I stay patient, they will change again. And this is where people destroy themselves emotionally. Because it is not your job to fix someone who doesn't want to be fixed. It is not your job to convince someone to care. It is not your job to teach someone how to treat you with respect. If someone is changing in a negative way, if they are becoming cold, careless, disrespectful, distant, or inconsistent, then the truth is already in front of you. And Buddhism teaches that wisdom is the ability to accept the truth without begging reality to become different. Some people change because they are confused. Some people change because they are selfish. Some people change because they got bored. Some people change because they found new interests, new friends, new priorities, or even someone else. Some people change because they never had pure intentions in the first place. And some people change because they were only meant to be in your life for a season, not for a lifetime. But no matter what the reason is, you must understand this. You cannot control people's hearts. You cannot control their loyalty. You cannot control their emotions. You cannot control their choices. And the moment you stop trying to control these things, you finally begin to breathe again. Because when you keep trying to fix someone, you trap yourself. You trap your mind in endless thoughts. You trap your heart in endless waiting. You trap your peace in someone's hands. You wake up thinking about them. You sleep thinking about them. You lose focus in your daily life. You lose confidence. You start losing your own identity because your whole emotional world becomes about them. Buddhism teaches that attachment is dangerous because it makes you cling to what is unstable. You cling to attention. You cling to love. You cling to the idea of someone. You cling to the memories. And then when reality changes, you suffer because you are trying to hold water in your hands. The harder you grip it, the faster it slips away. So, when someone changes, don't panic. Don't fall into desperation. Don't lose your self-respect trying to fix what is breaking. Instead, observe. Stay calm. See the truth clearly. Because the truth is, people don't always change suddenly. Many times, they were always like this inside, but you just didn't see it yet. Their mask slowly falls, their effort slowly disappears, and then you finally meet who they really are. And if someone is showing you coldness, don't respond by becoming desperate. Respond by becoming aware. Respond by becoming strong. Respond by choosing yourself. Another thing Buddhism teaches is that you must not take everything personally. Sometimes, someone changing on you has nothing to do with your value. It has to do with their emotional maturity, their selfishness, their confusion, their ego, or their inability to appreciate what they have. A person with a weak heart will always change based on their mood. A person with low character will always switch up when it benefits them. And a person who doesn't truly respect you will always make you feel like you have to compete for their attention. But you are not here to compete. You are not here to beg. You are not here to fight for basic love. You are not here to drain yourself for someone who is not consistent. And yes, it hurts when people change. It feels like betrayal. It feels like disrespect. It feels like you were fooled. But Buddhism teaches that pain is not only something that destroys you. Pain can also wake you up. Pain can open your eyes. Pain can force you to stop being blind. Because sometimes Allah, sometimes life, sometimes destiny removes people from you, not to punish you, but to protect you from deeper suffering. So don't try to fix someone who is changing in the wrong direction. You don't need to beg for their old version. You don't need to chase their past love. You don't need to convince them to treat you right again. You only need one thing: acceptance. Acceptance does not mean you approve of what they did. Acceptance means you stop fighting the reality. Acceptance means you stop arguing with the truth. Acceptance means you stop exhausting yourself. Because the moment you accept, you detach. And the moment you detach, you heal. And the moment you heal, you become calm again. So if someone changed on you, don't take it as a sign that you are not enough. Take it as a sign that you are being redirected. Take it as a sign that your soul is being protected. Take it as a lesson that you should never build your peace on someone who is not stable. And remember this powerful truth: it is not your job to fix people. It is your job to protect your peace. 4. Detachment is not coldness. It's self-respect. When people hear the word detachment, they sometimes misunderstand it. They think detachment means you become heartless, emotionless, cold, or rude. They think detachment means you stop caring about anyone and you treat people like they don't matter. But Buddhism teaches something very different. Detachment is not about becoming a cruel person. Detachment is about becoming a free person. It is not about closing your heart. It is about protecting your mind. Because many people are not suffering due to love. They are suffering due to attachment. They are suffering because they care too much about someone who does not care enough. They are suffering because they keep lowering themselves for someone who keeps rising in ego. They are suffering because they keep giving emotional access to someone who is unstable, inconsistent, or disrespectful. And the painful truth is, the more attached you are, the more vulnerable you become. The more attached you are, the easier it becomes for someone to control you emotionally. Detachment is self-respect, because it is the moment you finally say, I will not destroy myself just to keep someone in my life. It is the moment you choose your dignity over attention. It is the moment you choose your peace over chasing. It is the moment you stop allowing your heart to beg for what should have been given naturally. Think about this deeply. When someone changes on you, when they start becoming cold or distant, your mind immediately wants to do something. It wants to fix the connection. It wants to win them back. It wants to remind them of your value. It wants to prove your worth. And what happens next is dangerous, because you start becoming emotionally desperate. You start replying too fast. You start forgiving too easily. You start accepting late replies, disrespectful behavior, mixed signals, and inconsistency. And slowly, you lose something far more valuable than that person. You lose your self-respect. This is why Buddhism teaches that attachment leads to suffering. Not because love is wrong, but because attachment is love without control. Attachment is love mixed with fear. Fear of losing them. Fear of being replaced. Fear of being forgotten. Fear of being alone. And that fear makes you do things that your future self will regret. It makes you chase people who don't deserve your effort. It makes you stay in situations that disrespect your soul. It makes you tolerate things that your heart knows are wrong. Now listen carefully, because this is the mindset shift that will change your life. Detachment does not mean you stop feeling. Detachment means you stop reacting. It means you stop giving your peace away so easily. It means you stop allowing someone's behavior to decide your emotional state. Because the truth is, if one person can change their mood and instantly destroy your mood, then you are not living in freedom, you are living in emotional slavery. Detachment is you taking your power back. When you detach, you don't become hateful, you don't become rude, you don't become bitter, you simply stop begging, you stop needing, you stop chasing, you stop trying to force someone to treat you right. You accept what they are showing you, and you respond with calm distance. You stop making excuses for disrespect. You stop convincing yourself that they're just busy, when deep down you know they just don't care the way they used to. Because self-respect means you don't stay where you are tolerated. Self-respect means you don't beg where you should be appreciated. Self-respect means you don't shrink yourself just to fit inside someone's half-love. And let's be real. Many people stay attached because they mistake attachment for loyalty. They think, if I leave, I'm giving up. They think, if I detach, I'm being selfish. They think, if I walk away, it means I didn't love them enough. But Buddhism teaches you can love someone deeply and still detach from their behavior. You can care about someone and still refuse to suffer for them. Because love without boundaries becomes self-destruction. Detachment is not you saying, I don't care about you. Detachment is you saying, I care about myself too. That is balance. That is wisdom. It is also important to understand that detachment is not a punishment for the other person. It is not a game. It is not you trying to make them jealous. It is not you trying to act cool. Detachment is not ego. Detachment is inner discipline. It is emotional control. It is you refusing to chase someone who doesn't value your presence. When you detach, you are protecting your energy. Because your energy is precious, your time is precious, your attention is precious, your emotional effort is precious. And if you keep pouring it into someone who is not giving you the same energy back, you will eventually feel empty, drained, and mentally exhausted. You will start losing sleep. You will start losing appetite. You will start losing focus. You will start losing your confidence. You will start questioning your value. And this is why detachment is not coldness, it is survival. Buddhism teaches that you must learn to observe people without attaching your happiness to them. You can enjoy them, but you must not depend on them. You can love them, but you must not lose yourself in them. You can give effort, but you must not become a beggar for respect. Because the truth is, when you are attached, you become easy to manipulate. If they give you attention, you feel high. If they ignore you, you feel broken. If they call you, you feel alive. If they disappear, you feel worthless. That is not love. That is a trap. That is the mind being controlled by external things. Detachment breaks that trap. Detachment makes you emotionally stable. It makes you calm. It makes you harder to hurt. It makes you less reactive. It makes you think clearly. It makes you see reality as it is, not as you wish it to be. And one of the most powerful benefits of detachment is that it brings you back to yourself. It helps you remember your worth. It helps you reconnect with your own life, your own goals, your own peace, your own identity. Because many people lose themselves in relationships, in friendships, and in attachments. They start living for someone else's attention. They start building their whole mood around someone else's energy. They start forgetting who they are. But detachment brings your soul back. It makes you realize, I don't need to beg. It makes you realize, I don't need to chase. It makes you realize, I don't need to explain my worth. It makes you realize, I don't need to tolerate disrespect. And when you finally reach that mindset, something changes inside you. You stop being the person who gets emotionally played. You stop being the person who is easily replaced. You stop being the person who keeps forgiving betrayal. You stop being the person who sacrifices self-respect for comfort. You become solid. You become grounded. You become calm. So if people change on you, don't become desperate. Don't become weak. Don't become addicted to their attention. Instead, detach. Because detachment is not a loss. Detachment is a return. A return to your power. A return to your dignity. A return to your peace. And remember this. The person who is calm without needing anyone is the person nobody can destroy. 5. The more you react, the more you suffer. Choose silence. When someone changes on you, the first thing that happens is not outside of you, it happens inside of you. Your mind starts moving fast. Your emotions start burning. Your heart starts asking questions. You feel disrespected, confused, replaced, ignored, or unimportant. And in that moment, most people make the same mistake. They react immediately. They react out of pain. They react out of fear. They react out of ego. They react out of desperation to fix what is breaking. But Buddhism teaches something that can save you from emotional destruction. The more you react, the more you suffer. Because reaction is not wisdom. Reaction is not strength. Reaction is your emotions controlling you. Think about it. When you react, you usually do one of these things. You send messages you later regret. You over-explain yourself. You argue. You demand answers. You complain. You accuse. You beg. You start acting needy, or you try to force closeness again. And the sad part is, in that moment, you believe you are protecting yourself, but in reality, you are only feeding your suffering. Because when you react emotionally, you give the other person even more control over you. You prove to them that they can change their energy, and your whole mood collapses. You prove that they can ignore you, and you will start chasing. You prove that one small silence from them can shake your entire peace. That is why Buddhism teaches the power of mindfulness and awareness. It teaches you to observe your emotions instead of obeying them. It teaches you to pause instead of exploding. It teaches you to breathe instead of begging, because the moment you can pause, you can regain control over your mind. Now, understand this clearly. Reactions don't bring people closer. Reactions push people away and pull you down. When someone is already becoming distant, reacting makes you look desperate. It makes you look unstable. It makes you look like your happiness depends on them. And even worse, it makes you lose your dignity. Because let's be honest, after reacting, you don't feel proud. You don't feel stronger. You feel embarrassed. You feel like you lost control. You replay your words again and again. You regret how much you showed. You regret how much you begged. You regret how emotional you became. And then you feel even more pain than before. This is why the Buddha taught that the mind is the source of suffering when it is uncontrolled. Your pain is not only what they did, your pain is what your mind does after they did it. Your mind creates stories. Your mind creates fear. Your mind creates worst-case scenarios. Your mind creates attachment. and your reaction becomes the proof that you are trapped inside those thoughts. So, what is the solution? The solution is silence. But not silence in a childish way, not silence to punish them, not silence to play games, not silence because you want them to beg for you. Buddhism does not teach ego games. Buddhism teaches peace. So the silence we are talking about is a sacred silence, a powerful silence, a mature silence. The silence of someone who knows their worth and refuses to lose control. When someone changes on you, silence gives you clarity. Silence gives you space. Silence stops you from begging. Silence stops you from humiliating your heart. Silence stops you from giving your pain words that make it grow bigger. Because every time you react, you keep the situation alive. You keep it moving. You keep your mind trapped in it. You keep the emotional connection alive, even if it's a painful one. That's why some people stay stuck for months or years, because they keep reacting. They keep reopening the wound. But when you choose silence, something powerful happens. You cut the emotional rope. You stop feeding the fire. You stop giving them free access to your emotions. You stop showing them that they can disturb your peace whenever they want. Silence is not weakness. Silence is control. Silence is saying, I will not chase someone who is choosing distance. Silence is saying, I will not explain myself to someone who doesn't value me. Silence is saying, I will not fight to be understood by someone who doesn't care. Silence is saying, my peace matters more than this conversation. And what makes silence even more powerful is this. It protects your dignity. Because dignity is the one thing you should never sacrifice for anyone. You can lose people and still live. You can lose relationships and still heal. But if you lose your dignity, you will feel shame inside yourself, and that shame will destroy your confidence. So when someone changes, instead of reacting emotionally, take a deep breath and ask yourself a simple question. If I speak right now, am I speaking from wisdom or am I speaking from pain? Because pain wants to react, pain wants to beg, pain wants to fight, pain wants instant relief. But wisdom chooses calm. Buddhism teaches that your peace is not something you beg for, it is something you build. And you build peace through discipline. The discipline to not chase, the discipline to not react, the discipline to let people show you who they are without trying to control the outcome. Now let's talk about something most people don't understand. When someone changes on you, your reaction becomes your advertisement. Your reaction shows them how much power they have over you. If you react with anger, you show them your ego is hurt. If you react with begging, you show them you fear losing them. If you react with long paragraphs, you show them you are emotionally dependent. And even if they don't say it, they notice it. But when you choose silence, you do something rare. You show emotional strength. You show self-control. You show that you don't collapse when someone pulls away. You show that you can accept the truth without losing your mind. And that kind of calm energy is something people cannot ignore. It is quiet power. Silence also helps you see the truth without distractions. Because sometimes people don't need explanations, they need distance. Sometimes the truth becomes clearer when you stop talking, you stop chasing, you stop asking questions, and you allow their actions to speak for them. Buddhism teaches that actions are more honest than words. Someone can say they care, but if they disappear, their actions are telling you the truth. Someone can say they are busy, but if they make time for everyone else, their actions are telling you the truth. Someone can say they miss you, but if they never show effort, their actions are telling you the truth. So don't react to words, react to patterns. And when you recognize a pattern of disrespect, inconsistency, or coldness, the best response is not fighting. The best response is not begging. The best response is silence and detachment. Because your goal is not to win them back. Your goal is to win yourself back. Also understand this deeply. Your reaction cannot force someone to love you. Your reaction cannot force someone to respect you. Your reaction cannot force someone to stay consistent. In fact, reacting too much can push them further away, because it makes them feel pressured, and pressure kills love. That is why Buddhism teaches letting go of control, letting go of attachment, letting go of outcomes, letting go of chasing. When you stop reacting, you start healing. Your nervous system calms down. Your mind becomes clearer. Your heart becomes stronger. You stop living in emotional panic. You stop checking your phone like your life depends on a notification. You stop repeating the same conversations in your head. And slowly, you become the person who is not easy to disturb. So if someone changes on you, don't react like you are desperate for them to stay. React like a person who has discovered their worth. React like a person who has realized that peace is more valuable than attention. React like someone who understands the most powerful sentence in Buddhism. You cannot control what happens, but you can control how you respond. So choose silence. Not because you don't care, but because you care about your peace more. Not because you want to punish them, but because you want to save yourself. Not because you are weak, but because you are finally strong. Because the more you react, the more you suffer. But the moment you choose silence, your healing begins. 6. Your peace must become more important than their presence. If you want the truth that will change the way you live forever, it is this. You don't suffer because people leave. You suffer because you made people your source of peace. You suffer because their presence became your emotional home. Their attention became your happiness. Their love became your confidence. Their replies became your calmness. And the moment they changed, it felt like your whole world collapsed. Not because they were the whole world, but because you placed too much of your inner stability in their hands. This is one of the most common forms of suffering in modern life. People don't realize they are emotionally dependent until someone pulls away. They don't realize they are attached until they are ignored. They don't realize they gave their peace away until they can't breathe without someone reassuring them. And this is exactly why Buddhism teaches that attachment is the root of suffering, because attachment is when you stop standing on your own soul and you start leaning on someone else for emotional survival. Think about it deeply. When someone is consistent with you, your mind feels safe, your heart feels relaxed, you feel valued, you feel loved, you feel chosen. But when that same person becomes distant, your mind starts panicking. You start overthinking. You start imagining worst-case scenarios. You start feeling anxious and restless. And suddenly, your peace disappears. That means your peace was never inside you. It was inside their behavior. And that is not peace. That is emotional dependence. Buddhism teaches that true peace is not something that comes and goes depending on someone's mood. True peace is not something that can be taken away by silence, distance, or rejection. True peace is a state of inner stillness. It is stability. It is emotional mastery. It is when your mind becomes calm, even when your life is not perfect. But most people have never been taught how to build that kind of peace. They were taught to chase love. They were taught to seek validation. They were taught that being wanted equals being valuable. So when someone changes, they don't just lose the person, they lose their sense of self. They start asking, why am I not enough? Why did I get replaced? Why did they stop caring? And these questions become a mental prison. That is why Buddhism teaches that your peace must become your highest priority, not people, not attention, not temporary love, because people can change without warning. Even the closest people can turn distant. Even the people you trusted can disappoint you. Even the people you thought would never leave can switch up. And if your peace depends on them, your life will always be unstable. Now understand this carefully. Making your peace more important than their presence does not mean you stop loving people. It means you stop losing yourself for them. It means you stop sacrificing your mental health for them. It means you stop tolerating disrespect just because you fear being alone. Because many people stay attached for one reason. They fear loneliness. They fear emptiness. They fear sitting with themselves. So they accept anything, even pain, even disrespect, even inconsistency, just to avoid being alone. But Buddhism teaches that solitude is not a punishment, it is a training ground. Being alone teaches you who you are. Being alone teaches you self-control. Being alone teaches you how to sit with your thoughts without running to people for comfort. And once you master being alone, you stop begging for anyone to stay. Because here's the truth. When you are emotionally independent, people don't control you anymore. They can text you or ignore you, and you remain calm. They can stay or leave, and you remain stable. They can love you or change on you, and you still keep your peace. That is power. That is what Buddhism calls freedom. Freedom from craving, freedom from attachment, freedom from emotional slavery. Many people misunderstand what it means to love. They think love means needing someone. They think love means you cannot breathe without them. They think love means your happiness should depend on them. But Buddhism teaches that love without freedom becomes suffering. Love without peace becomes addiction. Love without self-respect becomes self-destruction. So the goal is not to stop loving. The goal is to stop depending. Because depending on people makes you weak in moments when life tests you. And life will test you. People will change. People will disappoint you. People will leave. People will betray you. And if you have not built inner peace, you will always collapse every time life shifts. Now let's talk about something very real. When someone becomes your source of peace, you start accepting crumbs. You accept small attention like it is a blessing. A late reply becomes enough. A dry message becomes enough. A little bit of effort becomes enough. And you keep telling yourself, at least they still talk to me. That is not love. That is your self-worth begging for survival. But when your peace becomes more important than their presence, you stop accepting crumbs. You stop tolerating disrespect. You stop chasing someone who makes you feel unwanted. You stop begging someone to remember your value. You stop settling for inconsistency. Because your standards rise when your self-respect rises. You start realizing, if it costs me my peace, it's too expensive. You start realizing, if it makes me overthink every day, it's not love. You start realizing, if I feel anxious in the connection, it is not meant for me. And this mindset will save you from the biggest pain most people live in. The pain of being attached to someone who is not attached to you. Buddhism teaches something very powerful. You cannot control who stays, but you can control what you tolerate. You cannot control someone's behavior, but you can control your boundaries. You cannot control people changing, but you can control whether you chase them or detach from them. So when people change, your peace must be your priority, not their comfort, not their attention, not their approval. Because the moment you make them your priority, you become a servant to their behavior. And here is the deepest part. Making your peace your priority means you stop trying to be chosen and you start choosing yourself. You stop begging people to value you, and you start valuing yourself. You stop chasing attention, and you start building inner calm. You stop trying to be loved by everyone, and you start loving your own soul. This is when your life transforms. Because when you are at peace, you attract better, not just people, but better energy, better choices, better discipline, and better direction. You stop wasting time on the wrong connections. You stop draining yourself for the wrong people. You stop giving your best to those who treat you casually. You start protecting your energy like it is sacred. And the beautiful thing about peace is that once you have it, you will never trade it for temporary attention again. So, if someone changes on you, don't panic, don't beg, don't chase, don't break yourself. Instead, return to yourself. Sit with your pain without running. Breathe through the discomfort. Observe your mind. Let the craving pass. Because cravings are like waves. If you don't feed them, they disappear. But if you feed them with chasing and begging, they grow bigger and they drown you. Buddhism teaches calm is your greatest strength. So train your calm, train your mind, train your peace. Because the moment your peace becomes more important than their presence, you stop being controlled. And once you stop being controlled, you become truly free. 7. The final truth. The right people don't make you beg. There is a moment in life that changes a person forever. It is the moment you finally realize that you have been fighting too hard for something that was never meant to require fighting. It is the moment you look back at all the times you explained yourself, all the times you waited for replies, all the times you swallowed disrespect, all the times you held your tears just to look strong, all the times you begged for attention without saying the word begging, and you finally understand one simple truth. The right people don't make you beg. This is not something you learn from reading quotes. This is something you learn from pain, because pain is the teacher that forces you to wake up. Pain reveals what love really is and what love is not. Pain exposes who is real and who is only present when it benefits them. Pain shows you what your heart tolerated simply because you were afraid of being alone. And Buddhism teaches that suffering is not always a curse. Sometimes suffering is your awakening. Sometimes your heartbreak is not there to destroy you, but to bring you back to yourself. The right people do not make you question your worth every day. They do not make you feel like you are too much for asking for basic respect. They do not make you feel like you have to compete to be chosen. They do not make you feel like your love is a burden. They do not disappear and return whenever they feel like it, expecting you to stay available like an option. The right people do not confuse you. They do not drain you. They do not keep you in emotional anxiety. And most importantly, they do not make you feel like you must beg just to feel important. Because begging is not love. Begging is what happens when respect is missing. Begging is what happens when you are giving more than you are receiving. Begging is what happens when you are trying to force consistency from someone who is inconsistent by nature. Begging is what happens when you keep hoping someone will become the person you need, even though they keep proving they are not that person. Begging is what happens when your heart is attached to someone who is emotionally unavailable. And Buddhism teaches that attachment is suffering, because attachment keeps you chasing what cannot be held. Let's speak clearly. A person who values you will not make you chase. They will not make you beg for replies. They will not make you feel embarrassed for wanting effort. They will not make you guess where you stand. They will not punish you with silence. They will not ignore you like you are nothing and then act surprised when you finally walk away. People who truly value you do not play with your emotions. They protect your heart because they understand your heart is not a toy. But many people in this world don't think like that. Many people enjoy attention but don't give commitment. They enjoy being wanted but don't want responsibility. They enjoy your loyalty but don't deserve it. They enjoy your presence but don't respect your value. And if you are not careful, you will spend your life trying to be loved by people who only know how to use others. That is why Buddhism teaches that wisdom is learning when to let go, not when it is easy, but when it is necessary. Wisdom is not staying loyal to what is breaking you. Wisdom is not holding on to what is draining you. Wisdom is knowing that sometimes the only way to protect your spirit is to detach, even if your heart still cares. Now understand this deeply. The reason you beg is not because you are weak. You beg because you are emotionally attached. You beg because you remember the good moments. You beg because you fear that leaving means losing everything. You beg because you want to believe it can go back to how it was. You beg because you don't want to accept the truth. And that truth is painful because the truth says they are not who you thought they were anymore. Sometimes you're not even attached to them. You're attached to the hope of them. You're attached to the idea that they will change. You're attached to the version of them that existed in the beginning. You're attached to the potential, not the reality. And Buddhism teaches that clinging to illusions is what creates suffering. You suffer because you are loving the image, not the truth. So, here is the turning point. The right people don't make you beg, but the wrong people will train you to beg. They will train you to accept crumbs. They will train you to lower your standards. They will train you to normalize disrespect. They will train you to become anxious and dependent. They will train you to lose your peace slowly, day by day, until you don't even recognize who you have become. And that is why detachment is not optional. Detachment is survival. There are people who will treat you like you are priceless, and there are people who will treat you like you are replaceable. And if you keep begging the second type, you will lose yourself. You will lose your sleep. You will lose your confidence. You will lose your focus. You will lose your self-worth. And the worst part is, you will start believing that this pain is normal. You will start thinking love is supposed to feel like anxiety. You will start thinking relationships are supposed to be confusing. You will start thinking you have to suffer to be chosen. But Buddhism teaches that peace is your natural state. Peace is who you were before you became attached to the wrong people. Peace is who you become again when you let go. Now let's talk about the most dangerous trap, the trap of seeking closure. Many people keep begging because they want a final explanation. They want a clear ending. They want the other person to admit the truth. They want the other person to say, "Yes, I changed." They want the other person to say, "Yes, I stopped caring." They want the other person to say, "Yes, I hurt you." They want the other person to apologize and make it make sense. But Buddhism teaches that closure is not something you always receive. It is something you create. Sometimes the closure is in the disrespect itself. Sometimes the closure is in the silence. Sometimes the closure is in the way they treat you when you need them most. Sometimes the closure is in how easily they replace you. Sometimes the closure is in how they act like your absence doesn't matter. When someone shows you who they are, that is closure. When someone stops valuing you, that is closure. When someone becomes inconsistent, that is closure. You don't need a speech. You don't need an apology. You don't need explanations. You only need to see reality clearly. And once you see reality clearly, your begging stops. Because you realize begging is not love, it is self-betrayal. Begging is you abandoning yourself to keep someone else. Begging is you crushing your pride to keep a connection alive. Begging is you disrespecting your own soul just to avoid loneliness. And Buddhism teaches that the deepest suffering comes from self-abandonment, not from someone leaving, but from you leaving yourself. So the final truth is not only that the right people don't make you beg, the final truth is that you should never make yourself beg either. You should never beg someone to stay. You should never beg someone to reply. You should never beg someone to care. You should never beg someone to respect you. You should never beg someone to see your worth. If you are doing that, you are not fighting for love. You are fighting for validation. You are fighting for the feeling of being enough. You are fighting for your ego to feel chosen again. And all of that creates suffering. Now, let's bring it even deeper. Buddhism teaches that your value is not dependent on being chosen. Your value is not dependent on being loved. Your value is not dependent on being wanted. You are valuable because you exist. Your worth is not something people give you. It is something you recognize within yourself. That means when someone changes on you, it does not mean you became less. It means they became blind. It means they became careless. It means they became unworthy of your emotional investment. It means they lost the ability to appreciate what they had. So don't chase someone who cannot see your value. Don't beg someone whose heart is already turned away. Don't fight for a place in someone's life when they are making it clear you are not a priority. Because even if you succeed in keeping them, you will never feel safe. You will always feel anxious. You will always fear them changing again. You will always feel like you are walking on thin ice. But when you detach, you regain your stability. Detachment is you saying, I will not beg for love that is not freely given. Detachment is you saying, I will not chase attention that should come naturally. Detachment is you saying, I will not lose myself to keep someone. Detachment is not hate. Detachment is healing. And the moment you detach, you stop living in emotional chaos. You stop checking your phone every 5 minutes. You stop being controlled by silence. You stop overthinking every small shift. You stop creating stories in your mind. You stop putting them on a pedestal. You stop trying to impress them. You stop wanting their approval. You become calm again. Now here is the part that most people don't expect. Detachment does not always make people come back, but it always makes you come back. It returns you to your own energy. It returns you to your own goals. It returns you to your own focus. It returns you to your own confidence. And that is the real win. Because the goal was never to keep them. The goal was to stop losing you. The truth is, many people are not meant to stay in your life forever. Some people are lessons. Some people are tests. Some people are temporary mirrors that reveal what you still need to heal. And when they leave, it is not always a loss. Sometimes it is a release. Buddhism teaches that what is meant for you will not require you to beg. It will not require you to chase. It will not require you to be anxious every day. It will not require you to lose your dignity. It will not require you to break your own heart repeatedly. What is meant for you will feel peaceful. It will feel stable. It will feel calm. It will feel consistent. So if you are begging, it's not meant for you. And yes, that truth hurts, but it also heals you, because it forces you to stop lying to yourself. It forces you to stop settling. It forces you to stop accepting half-love. It forces you to stop being loyal to someone who is not loyal to you. Now let's talk about the greatest power you can ever develop: emotional independence. Emotional independence is when you can love deeply without losing your peace. Emotional independence is when you can enjoy someone without needing them. Emotional independence is when you stop fearing people leaving because you know you can stand alone. Emotional independence is when you stop needing attention to feel valuable. And Buddhism teaches that this is the highest form of strength. Because the world is full of people who look strong on the outside, but they are weak inside. They cannot handle rejection. They cannot handle silence. They cannot handle being ignored. They cannot handle someone changing. They fall apart emotionally. They chase. They beg. They lose themselves. But a truly powerful person is calm. A truly powerful person is stable. A truly powerful person knows that their peace is sacred. So, when people change, they don't beg. They detach. They observe. They accept. They move forward. They don't fight for attention because they know their worth. They don't chase love because they know love should come freely. They don't beg for respect because they know respect is the bare minimum. And this is the final lesson of this video. If people change on you, don't panic. Don't chase. Don't beg. Detach with dignity. Detach with calmness. Detach with self-respect. Because you are not here to be everyone's option. You are not here to be someone's emotional backup plan. You are not here to be loved only when it is convenient. You are not here to lose your peace just to keep someone. You were not born to beg. You were born to grow. You were born to heal. You were born to become free. So walk away from what makes you desperate. Walk away from what makes you anxious. Walk away from what makes you lose your dignity. And step into peace. Because the right people will never make you beg. And the moment you stop begging is the moment you become unstoppable. You stop being controlled by attention. You stop being controlled by silence. You stop being controlled by rejection. You stop being controlled by people's moods. You become calm no matter what. You become peaceful no matter what. You become free no matter what. And that is the true victory. That is Buddhism. That is detachment. That is self-respect. And that is how you stop begging forever. 8. You don't lose them, you return to yourself. When someone changes on you, it feels like you are losing something important. It feels like you are losing love, losing connection, losing attention, losing comfort, losing the future you imagined. It feels like you are losing a person who once felt like home. And because it feels like a loss, your mind immediately starts fighting. Your mind starts begging. Your mind starts chasing. Your mind starts trying to pull them back, because your heart believes that if they come back, you will finally feel okay again. But Buddhism teaches something completely different. It teaches that in many cases, you are not losing them. You are returning to yourself. Because the painful truth is, most people don't just love someone, they disappear inside them. They lose their identity, they lose their routine, they lose their emotional stability, they lose their self-respect. Their mood becomes controlled by that person's attention. Their sleep becomes controlled by that person's replies. Their confidence becomes controlled by that person's behavior. They stop living their own life, and they start waiting to be chosen. And at first, it doesn't feel like a problem. At first, it feels like love. It feels like closeness. It feels like attachment in a sweet way. But slowly, without realizing it, you start building a cage inside your mind. A cage made of expectations. A cage made of fear. A cage made of, what if they leave? A cage made of, what if they stop caring? And the moment they change, the cage becomes painful, because now you are trapped inside your own attachment. That is why Buddhism says the mind is the battlefield, because your suffering is not created only by what people do. Your suffering is created by what your mind becomes attached to. You become attached to their presence. You become attached to how they made you feel. You become attached to being important to them. You become attached to the idea that you need them to feel complete. And that is why, when they change, you don't just feel hurt, you feel lost. You feel like your direction disappeared. You feel like your identity broke. You feel like your heart is floating without purpose. And in that moment, you think the solution is to get them back. But Buddhism teaches that the solution is not to get them back. The solution is to get yourself back. Because the moment they change is often the moment life is trying to wake you up. It is the moment you are forced to see what you ignored. It is the moment you finally realize that you made someone too big in your world. It is the moment you finally realize that you placed your peace in a place that was not stable. That is why losing someone can feel like losing yourself, because you were living through them. So, the real lesson is not, how do I keep them? The real lesson is, how do I return to myself? How do I return to my peace? How do I return to my stability? How do I return to my self-respect? How do I return to my purpose? How do I return to my own life? Because the truth is, the strongest person is not the person who holds on the longest. The strongest person is the person who can let go and still stand tall. The strongest person is the one who can lose someone and not lose themselves. Now understand this deeply. The pain of someone changing is not always pain from love. It is pain from ego. It is pain from rejection. It is pain from feeling replaced. It is pain from feeling unimportant. It is pain from feeling like you were not enough. And that pain attacks your identity because your mind starts asking dangerous questions like, why wasn't I chosen? Why wasn't I worth staying for? Why did they change on me? What's wrong with me? Buddhism teaches that these thoughts are illusions created by attachment, because you were always enough, you were always valuable, you were always worthy. The only thing that changed is that the person stopped seeing it, and that does not lower your value. It only reveals their vision. But your mind doesn't accept that easily, because your mind wants control. Your mind wants answers. Your mind wants certainty. Your mind wants the comfort of being chosen again. And that is why people beg. They beg not because they love. They beg because they want their ego to feel safe again. And that is where Buddhism brings the truth. Real love is peaceful, but attachment is anxious. When you are attached, you feel nervous when they don't respond. When you are attached, you feel restless when their energy shifts. When you are attached, you feel empty when they are not there. When you are attached, you feel like your life is incomplete. But when you return to yourself, you start feeling calm again. You start breathing again. You start remembering that you had a life before them. You start remembering that your worth was never given by them. You start remembering that you are still here, still alive, still capable, still strong, still valuable. This is one of the most powerful awakenings in life, realizing that the love you were begging for from them was actually the love you needed to give to yourself. Because many people beg for attention because they don't give themselves attention. They beg for love because they don't love themselves properly. They beg to be valued because they don't value themselves deeply. They beg to be chosen because they don't choose themselves. So the real healing begins when you stop asking, why did they change? And you start asking, why did I forget myself? Why did I accept disrespect? Why did I tolerate inconsistency? Why did I chase someone who was pulling away? Why did I give my peace to someone who didn't protect it? Why did I make someone else's behavior decide my mood? These questions are not to blame yourself. These questions are to wake yourself up, because awareness is the beginning of transformation. Buddhism teaches that you cannot heal what you refuse to see. And many people refuse to see the truth because the truth feels painful. The truth says, they were not as real as you thought. The truth says you were more invested than they were. The truth says you were giving more than you were receiving. The truth says you were attached to the idea, not the reality. But once you accept the truth, you become free. Freedom doesn't come from them returning. Freedom comes from you detaching. Because detachment is not just letting go of them. Detachment is letting go of the version of yourself that needed them to feel okay. And that is a powerful transformation. Now imagine this. A person changes on you, and instead of begging, you choose silence. Instead of chasing, you choose distance. Instead of crying for their attention, you choose to rebuild your self-worth. Instead of wasting energy trying to be chosen, you choose to choose yourself. That is how you return to yourself. Returning to yourself means you stop checking your phone every minute. You stop stalking their activities. You stop rereading old messages. You stop feeding your mind with memories that keep you stuck. You stop fantasizing about them coming back. You stop creating scenarios where you win them back. You stop living in the past. You stop living in imaginary futures. You come back to now. And Buddhism teaches that peace only exists in the present moment. The past is a memory. The future is imagination. But the present is where your life is actually happening. And when you return to yourself, you return to the present. You start focusing on your health again. You start focusing on your goals again. You start focusing on your routine again. You start focusing on your growth again. You start focusing on your life again. You stop living like someone who was abandoned. You start living like someone who was redirected. Because sometimes losing people is not rejection. Sometimes it is redirection. Sometimes it is life removing distractions. Sometimes it is the universe clearing space. Sometimes it is your soul being guided away from what was draining it. And you may not see it now, because pain makes you blind. But one day you will look back and realize that someone changing on you was the best thing that happened to you, because it forced you to stop settling. It forced you to stop chasing. It forced you to stop begging. It forced you to stop living for someone else's attention. It forced you to become strong. It forced you to become independent. It forced you to become emotionally disciplined. And this is where the real glow-up happens. Not the glow-up of looks, the glow-up of energy, the glow-up of self-respect, the glow-up of calmness, the glow-up of peace. Because when you return to yourself, you become stable, you become centered, you become grounded, you become powerful. And the best part is, when you return to yourself, you stop being afraid of losing people because you realize you can survive without them. You realize you can breathe without them. You realize you can be happy without them. You realize you can live without them. And once you realize that, nobody can control you anymore. People can leave, and you still remain calm. People can ignore you, and you still remain stable. People can change on you, and you still remain peaceful. That is the ultimate victory. Because the goal was never to keep people. The goal was to keep your peace. So if someone changed on you, don't see it as the end of your story. See it as the return of your soul. See it as the moment you wake up. See it as the moment you start living again. You didn't lose them. You returned to yourself. And once you return to yourself, you will never beg again. 9. The moment you detach, life starts respecting you. There is a strange truth about life that most people only understand after they've been hurt enough times. The more you beg, the more you lose respect. The more you chase, the more you get ignored. The more you try to prove your value, the more people treat you like you have none. And the reason this happens is not because you are a bad person. It happens because desperation communicates weakness, and the world always tests weakness. But the moment you detach, something changes. The moment you stop begging, life starts respecting you. The moment you stop chasing, your energy shifts. The moment you stop needing people, you become powerful. And Buddhism teaches this deeply. Peace is magnetic, self-respect is attractive, and detachment is the ultimate spiritual strength. Because detachment is not just about letting people go. Detachment is about reclaiming your identity. It is about removing your self-worth from someone else's hands. It is about no longer being controlled by moods, attention, text messages, replies, reactions, or validation. It is about walking through life like a calm mountain, not like a leaf that gets blown away by every wind. Now, think about what happens when you are attached. When you are attached to someone who is inconsistent, your whole life becomes unstable. Your mood rises and falls depending on their actions. When they are kind, you feel alive. When they are cold, you feel empty. When they reply, you feel calm. When they ignore you, you feel anxiety. That means you have unknowingly handed them control over your inner world. Buddhism teaches that giving your inner peace away is the greatest loss. Because the external world is always changing. People change, situations change, feelings change, energies shift. But if your peace depends on things outside of you, then your peace will always be temporary. And that is why so many people suffer. Not because life is cruel, but because they built their emotional stability on unstable things. This is why detachment is not a cold decision. It is a wise decision. It is not you becoming heartless. It is you becoming unshakable. When you detach, you stop behaving like someone who needs to be chosen. You stop acting like love is something you must earn through pain. You stop believing you must suffer to be valued. You stop attaching your worth to someone's attention, and you start walking with a different energy, an energy that says, I am enough even if you leave. An energy that says, I am calm even if you change. An energy that says, I will not beg for what I deserve. And life respects that energy. Because life rewards the person who chooses self-respect. Life rewards the person who doesn't chase. Life rewards the person who doesn't fall apart. Life rewards the person who stays calm. Life rewards the person who knows how to let go. That's why you sometimes see a powerful pattern in relationships and friendships. When you stop chasing, they suddenly notice. When you stop texting, they suddenly miss you. When you stop begging, they suddenly remember your value. Not always because they truly love you, but because your energy changed. Your absence becomes louder than your presence. Your silence becomes stronger than your explanations. But Buddhism does not teach detachment to win people back. Buddhism teaches detachment to win yourself back. Because the greatest victory is not making someone regret losing you. The greatest victory is reaching a point where their loss no longer destroys you, where their change no longer shakes you, where their silence no longer controls you, where their distance no longer makes you desperate. That is real power. Now understand something very important. Detachment makes life respect you because it raises your standards. It makes you stop accepting less. It makes you stop tolerating disrespect. It makes you stop settling for crumbs. It makes you stop being a person who is available for people who treat you like an option. Before detachment, you might have accepted dry replies. You might have accepted being ignored. You might have accepted being replaced. You might have accepted inconsistency. You might have accepted emotional games because your fear of losing them was bigger than your self-respect. But after detachment, your energy changes completely. You stop caring about being liked. You start caring about being respected. You stop caring about attention. You start caring about peace. You stop caring about being chosen. You start caring about choosing yourself. And when that shift happens, your whole life upgrades. Because you stop begging for love, and you start attracting healthy connections. You stop chasing people, and you start building your purpose. You stop wasting your energy, and you start investing it into your growth. This is why detachment is not a simple mindset. It is a transformation. It is a level up. Buddhism teaches that the mind must be trained like a muscle. If you don't train your mind, it will chase everything that feels good in the moment. It will crave attention, validation, reassurance, and comfort. It will run away from loneliness, silence, and discomfort. That is the nature of the untrained mind. It seeks pleasure and avoids pain. But the trained mind is different. The trained mind can sit with discomfort without running. The trained mind can accept reality without begging for it to change. The trained mind can let go without collapsing. The trained mind can detach without hatred. The trained mind can remain calm while everything is shifting. That is why detachment is spiritual discipline. And when you become disciplined, life respects you, because life always respects strength. Now think about the kind of person you become when you detach. You become the person who no longer needs constant reassurance. You become the person who no longer needs someone to prove love every day. You become the person who no longer panics when someone's energy changes. You become the person who can observe people's actions without getting emotionally destroyed. And that ability is rare. Most people are emotional slaves. They get controlled easily. A small message can make their whole day. A small silence can ruin their whole week. A compliment can make them feel worthy. A rejection can make them feel worthless. Their mood is constantly moving based on what others do. But when you detach, you stop being controlled. You become stable. You become centered. You become grounded. You become calm. You become someone who cannot be played with. And that is why people start respecting you, because they feel your boundaries. They feel your calmness. They feel your self-control. They feel that you don't fear losing them. And when people realize you don't fear losing them, they can't control you anymore. Now, here's the deeper lesson. Detachment doesn't just make people respect you, it makes you respect yourself. Because self-respect is not a feeling, it is an action. It is what you do when you are tested. Self-respect is not saying, "I know my worth" on social media. Self-respect is not posting quotes. Self-respect is what you do when someone ignores you. Self-respect is what you do when someone changes. Self-respect is what you do when someone disrespects you. Do you chase? Do you beg? Do you over-explain? Do you tolerate? Do you stay where you are unwanted? Or do you detach? Detachment is the action of self-respect. And once you start choosing self-respect, you start becoming powerful in ways you never imagined. Because when you respect yourself, you stop betraying yourself. Most pain in life is not caused by other people. Most pain is caused by self-betrayal. You know someone is not good for you, but you stay. You know someone doesn't value you, but you chase. You know someone is changing, but you beg. You know you deserve more, but you accept less. That is self-betrayal. And Buddhism teaches that the suffering you experience is often your soul screaming for you to wake up. It is your inner self telling you, "Stop abandoning me." It is your spirit telling you, "Stop lowering me." It is your mind telling you, "Stop chasing what is not meant for you." Detachment ends that betrayal. Now, what happens after detachment is something beautiful. When you detach, you create space. Space in your mind, space in your heart, space in your routine, space in your life. And life always fills space. When you stop chasing the wrong people, you make room for the right ones. When you stop begging for attention, you make room for real love. When you stop tolerating disrespect, you make room for peace. When you stop being attached, you make room for growth. That's why people who detach always level up. They become stronger. They become calmer. They become more focused. They become more disciplined. They become more confident. And life starts rewarding that. Because once you detach, you stop being distracted. You stop wasting energy on emotional chaos. You stop losing sleep over people who don't care. You stop giving mental space to those who don't deserve it. And you start focusing on yourself, your goals, your purpose, your growth, your peace. You become unstoppable. Now let's talk about one more truth. Detachment does not mean you will never feel pain again. You will still feel emotions. You will still feel sadness sometimes. You will still feel disappointment sometimes. But the difference is, you will not be destroyed by it. You will not become desperate. You will not lose dignity. You will not chase. You will not beg. You will feel the pain, accept it, and move through it with calm strength. Buddhism teaches that pain is part of life, but suffering is optional. Pain is natural. Suffering is attachment. Pain happens when someone changes. Suffering happens when you refuse to accept the change. So when you detach, you end suffering. You still feel pain, but you don't suffer endlessly. You don't torture yourself mentally. You don't obsess. You don't chase closure. You don't beg for explanations. You accept reality, and that acceptance becomes freedom. And that is why the moment you detach, life starts respecting you. Because you stop being the person who is easy to break. You stop being the person who is easy to ignore. You stop being the person who keeps coming back no matter what. You become the person who chooses peace over people. And once you become that person, your energy becomes different. People can feel it. Life can feel it. The universe can feel it. A calm person is powerful. A detached person is untouchable. A disciplined mind is unstoppable. So if you want to upgrade your life, stop chasing. Stop begging. Stop reacting. Stop needing. Detach. Because the moment you detach, life starts respecting you, and more importantly, you finally start respecting yourself. Conclusion. So if people have changed on you, if they became cold, distant, inconsistent, or careless, don't let it break you. Let it wake you up. Because the truth is, not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay, and not every loss is a punishment. Sometimes it is protection. Sometimes it is redirection. Sometimes it is life removing what was slowly destroying your peace. Buddhism teaches that attachment is the root of suffering, and once you understand this, you stop begging for attention. You stop chasing people who are already walking away, and you stop giving your heart to those who don't protect it. You realize that your peace is priceless, and anyone who constantly disrupts it is too expensive to keep. From today, promise yourself something powerful. You will never beg again. You will never lower your self-respect just to be chosen. You will never chase love that makes you anxious. You will never fight for basic effort, because the strongest person is not the one who holds on the longest. The strongest person is the one who can let go and still remain calm. If they change, let them change. If they leave, let them leave. If they ignore you, let them ignore you. Because you are not here to beg for a place in someone's life. You are here to build a life so peaceful and so strong that nobody's presence or absence can control you. Detach, stay calm, and return to yourself. That is where your power is. That is where your peace is. That is where your freedom begins. And if this message touched your heart, comment below, "I choose peace over people." Subscribe for more Buddhist teachings that will strengthen your mind, heal your heart, and set you free.